Enfield Poltergeist, 1977. One of the scariest and best-researched hauntings in paranormal history is the Enfield Poltergeist. Between 1977 and 1979, a single woman and her 4 children encountered violent and unsettling unexplained occurrences in the North London town of Enfield. Due in major part to the evidence acquired and the family's vivid, frequently horrifying experiences, the case received a lot of attention from the media and the paranormal community. Books, documentaries, and films have all been influenced by this haunting. One such work is The Conjuring 2, 2016, which dramatized the occurrences. However, the true tale of the Enfield Poltergeist is far more bizarre and horrifying than anything Hollywood could conjure up. The history and early symptoms of the Hodgson family. This story starts in August 1977, when the Hodgson family lived in a modest 3-bedroom house at 284 Green Street, Enfield. The family included the single mother, Peggy Hodgson, her children, Margaret, 13, Janet, 11, Johnny, 10, and Billy, 7. Nothing in their past indicated that they would become the targets of one of the most horrifying hauntings in history. They were a normal working-class family. On the evening of August 30th, 1977, it all began. Janet, Peggy's frightened daughter, ran into her mother's room. Janet reported seeing her bedroom's furnishings move. Initially doubtful, Peggy entered the room to find out more. She was shocked to discover that Janet's chair had shifted from its original position and that the room seemed abnormally cold. Peggy asked her daughter to go back to sleep, assuming it was a practical joke or some kind of misunderstanding. However, from that night on, the occurrences only got worse. The initial act of violence. Over the following few days, a number of odd things kept happening. The family claimed that they could hear strong knocking sounds coming from the floors and walls. The noises were strong, distinct knocks that were inexplicable, not the usual house-settling noises. Peggy initially believed it might be the plumbing or some other commonplace reason. But day or night, these knocks seemed to follow them everywhere. The scenario quickly became more heated. An earthquake or other outside force couldn't have caused the heavy furniture to start moving on its own. Without any human contact, tables and chairs would topple over or slide across the floor. Peggy and her kids were beginning to get really scared. The most unsettling incident happened while Janet was sitting on her bed when she felt a sudden grasp. A force lifted her body off the bed and slammed it back down, she claimed. Peggy came to the realization that something more darker was going on after this. The involvement of the police and media, Peggy called the police at this point. The officers were confused when they came and looked into the happenings and noises in the residence. They investigated the house after hearing the knocking noises and discovered nothing that would account for the situation. Although the police did not formally take any action, they did not reject the family's allegations either. The local media started to become interested in the tale as the situation worsened. In an attempt to catch a glimpse of the paranormal activities, the Daily Mirror newspaper dispatched reporters and photographers to the Hodgson residence. A photographer by the name of Graham Morris took a picture of Janet hovering over her bed during one of these inquiries. She was shown in the picture looking terrified while hovering a few inches off the ground in an almost unnatural manner. This was the turning point that made the case widely public. The voices and levitations. Among the most well-known and startling elements of the haunting were the levitation events. On other occasions, Janet was observed floating over the bed and being flung across the room as if by an unseen force. Several witnesses, including journalists and paranormal investigators, observed Janet levitate in front of their eyes. Thus, there was no reason to believe she was fabricating her encounters. Some even said that it was impossible for humans to comprehend the force of the throw across the room. Janet and the rest of the family began to experience levitations and weird sounds emanating from the house. Janet's voice was described as gravely low voice, which was very different from her own. The voice, which frequently spoke in full phrases, was ultimately identified as that of Bill Wilkins, who had passed away in the house years earlier. Before the Hodgsons came in, the house had been the home of Bill Wilkins, who resided there until his death. Through Janet, he occasionally addressed people directly, frequently in a threatening and agitated manner. The voice sounded gruff, harsh, and not at all like Janet's. The Warrens become interested. Peggy contacted paranormal investigators, such as the well-known team of Ed and Lorraine Warren, who had previously looked into the Amityville horror case as the activity increased. In 1978, the Warrens came to Enfield to look into the haunting. Ed and Lorraine were convinced that the family was being tormented by a demonic presence, a spirit with evil intent. Ed, a self-taught demonologist, thought that this spirit was communicating with the living via manifesting itself through Janet. Clairvoyant Lorraine also said she sensed a powerful bad aura in the house. She subsequently asserted that the family was being physically and emotionally attacked by something genuinely malevolent in the house. In an effort to quiet the entity and speak with the ghost, the Warrens had a number of seances while they were there. These sessions were tumultuous, with windows rattling and everything flying off shelves. Janet was once said to have been possessed by the spirit of Bill Wilkins. She started speaking in his voice during one seance, communicating with the investigators. Doubt and public response. Although the narrative received media attention, the case was also met with a great deal of skepticism. Some investigators and critics hypothesized that the Hodgson family was fabricating the incidents to gain publicity or financial gain. Some claim that the youngest child, Janet, started the conflict. She may have been feigning to levitate or influence objects in the house, according to skeptics. However, it was determined that the activity in the house was too violent and bizarre to be a hoax, following a comprehensive study by a number of professionals, including journalists, psychics, and other paranormal researchers. Even the most dubious onlookers found it difficult to explain Janet's levitation. The voice that came through Janet had been examined by experts. The concept that something supernatural was happening gained more weight because the voice was distinct and different from Janet's own. Hypotheses and potential justifications. The Enfield Poltergeist case has been the subject of numerous psychiatric and paranormal theories. Among the most well-known are the activity of poltergeists. According to one opinion, the disruptions might have been caused by poltergeist activity, which is usually connected to a restless or irate spirit. Experts sometimes associate poltergeist activity with emotional stress or suppressed emotions, implying that Janet's emotional upheaval as a young child may have unintentionally contributed to the disruptions. Demonic ownership. The Warrens popularized a different notion, claiming that the mansion was haunted by a demonic spirit that might have been connected to the land or the previous occupant, Bill Wilkins. According to this belief, the thing tortured the family and expressed itself through Janet. Psychological manipulation or hoaxing. Many doubters think the family staged the incidents to get media attention or raise money. Janet's actions throughout the events were cited by some opponents as evidence that she was acting out or exaggerating the circumstances to get attention.